Welcome to the Beyond Sugar Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Dame, holistic nutrition coach and speaker. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode here on the Beyond Sugar Freedom podcast. I am so excited for our guest today. Welcome to the show, Reed. Thank you so much for coming on to share your wisdom with us today.
Okay, Danny, thank you so much for having me here. Can't wait to get started.
Yeah. I know we're going to have a really great conversation and a lot of topics that we haven't yet covered here on the podcast. But before we dive into all of that, why don't you start by, really sharing with us what got you into the work that you're doing today? What was your journey with health and now into obviously doing this incredible work with functional diagnostic nutrition and everything else that you're doing?
Well, thank you. Most people who get into the health space seem to have had some incident or health concern of their own. I was actually perfectly healthy, or thought I was. I was in environmental law and environment conservation, cleaning up the planet, saving the world, so to speak, but mostly having to do with the air, birds, water, trees, bees, flora and fauna. And so in the late 90s, as bad as things were, I started turning my attention to people. I started wondering, what about people? And including me, I said I was really healthy, but I didn't want anything to sneak up on me, as I know some health problems do. So I changed jobs. I went to work in a wellness center, kind of an alternative health clinic in Southern California, and we had lots and lots of patients coming in the door who weren't well and were looking for something alternative. Now, I did lots of studies. I wasn't a practitioner of the kind I am now. I had to discover all of these wonderful opportunities to help people. And anyway, that was my mission. What I noticed right away, Danny, you'll totally get this, and I hope your listeners identify too, because everyone walking in the center, it seemed, had already been to 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 different practitioners and weren't better yet. Now, again, I had never really been to the doctor except for some sports injuries, a couple of motorcycle accidents, and some dental work. So I didn't have any chronic downward spiraling health concerns like all these people walking in had their health problem for a long period of time, been to lots of different practitioners, weren't better yet. And I just immediately thought, what a ripoff! What do you mean? I didn't get it. The health, I didn't know how bad the health system was. It's really a disease system, and we all know that now. But back then I was surprised, and one day I was out riding my motorcycle, really feeling the pain of all of our patients and clients coming in, and I said, I'm going to be the last person they need to see to reach their goals, to get better. And I didn't know how, but and I'll fast forward here a lot, but so what I did is I spent the next 10 years, I got a lot of certifications, but my claim to fame is I ran thousands and thousands of lab tests. And these were the alternative lab tests of the day. Now they're considered normal functional medicine or integrative medicine. Sometimes it's called complementary medicine. But back then it was just alternative. Some people thought we were kind of quacky. But I was determined to get to the underlying causes and conditions and not practice medicine. So I didn't want to be anything like standard medicine. And so I studied that as well. What was wonderful, I'll just finish with this, was I had a lot to learn. Again, I was determined to help, didn't know how. I had a lot to learn, but I had nothing to unlearn. The problem we have today is that physicians and practitioners, it's so ingrained in them how to think and how to act and what to do, and most of it's really not working very well for people. So I had nothing to unlearn, and I just spent the next 10 years really just doing everything. I got all kinds of certifications, like I said, but running the labs, and I started recognizing patterns and I had great mentorship. But I came up this is really important. I came up with my own discoveries and patterns about what's really going on. And I can answer any question you want about that, but that's what got me started, just wanting to be the last person people had to see to get well.
Yeah, that's incredible. Thanks for sharing that, Reed. And I think we need more people doing that in the world. Like, we need more people with that mission. I am so with you in that. And I know a lot of my listeners, are in that, like you just mentioned, having gone to doctor and doctor and doctor and nothing's being helped. And it's, it can become really deflating. Like, maybe there's just something wrong with me. And this disconnection from, like, knowing there's something wrong with my body because I'm having some sort of symptoms, and then the doctor's telling me nothing's wrong. I'm actually going through that currently with my brother, is struggling with some health things, and he's had all the tests run in the ER, right, in the hospital, and all the testing. Nothing's wrong with him. Sure, there isn't. Why is he passing out? Why does he have incredibly high blood pressure? Like, just all these things, right? So luckily, he's finally going into, getting more functional support, thank goodness. So this is a really, important topic to understand, that our medical system, like you said, right, is just not set up. It's not set up to actually support our body in healing and uncovering the root cause, which is why I love, like, your approach and what you're doing. So I know one of the things that you're doing, right, and actually certifying people, is functional diagnostic nutrition. Can you explain what that is and how that differs from maybe the support that people have been trying to get and not succeeding with?
Yeah. So after 10 years of running thousands of labs on thousands of people, and again, recognizing patterns about what's really wrong, I learned to identify this entire constellation of healing opportunities. That's the functional phrase, healing opportunities. That's not the same as a diagnosis. A physician says, here's what's wrong with you, diagnosis, and here's your treatment, usually drugs or surgery or something. I looked instead for healing opportunities. In other words, what's really wrong, that a person could be in charge of their own health by knowing, by having this data. Oh, I know what's wrong. I'm not just going to take pills. I'm going to fix it myself. That's our methodology. So after 10 years of that, people kept telling me, you should be teaching, you should be teaching. And I don't want to play the reluctant hero here, but I finally said, okay, well, I wasn't a teacher, but I put together an educational program. And in 2008 is when I started. I taught some practitioners how to do what I was doing, just how to duplicate my system, a system I developed over 10 years in office that was working really well. We were getting amazing results. And the practitioners who I worked with and some of the suppliers, like one of the labs called me one day and said, "Who the hell are you?" And what do you mean? He goes, well, you run more labs than any 5 doctors we know. And this is an alternative, type lab, saliva testing of hormones and immune system at that time. And I said, well, I don't know. I just do it, I love people. I love helping. And so I just run a lot of labs. And he said, you need to be teaching other practitioners. And he said, here's why. Reed, you're helping a lot of people, right? Like, you're getting really great results. Yeah, amazing results. Changing people's lives. And I could give you stories, Danny, like you wouldn't believe. One after another. Almost, I hate the word miracle, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Complete life-changing stuff by running these labs and giving people control over their own health. And he said, think how many people would get help if you were teaching others to duplicate your system. And that really struck a nerve with me. I had only been doing what we call FDN, functional diagnostic. I had to think of a name for it. It's just what I came up with. Now we're stuck with it. But I'd just been doing it to make us the best clinic in Southern California. I wanted to have a very successful clinic and make us look good, and also to help people. And the idea of helping people on a much grander scale really appealed to me. I said, wow, you're right. We could help, instead of thousands, maybe tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. Who knows where it would go? Well, that was in 2008. And sure enough, now we have over 4,000 practitioners who are duplicating
Wow.
and doing it in 50 different countries, and we're quite a force to be reckoned with. You know, I have a strong organization around the whole thing. I have 35 employees, almost 40 now. Really, we're in different countries and continents, and we have a lot of really good support and networking and partnerships with these
Yeah.
labs all over the world and with these different companies, you know, suppliers and things all over the world. So I called it functional. So that's what we have, this huge community.
Amazing.
It's wonderful, really good people who help each other as well as helping their own clients. Um, but I was just going to say that my mission hasn't changed one bit. You know, it's to help
Yeah.
as many people as possible,
Yeah.
to educate them how to get well and stay well naturally, so they in turn can educate others.
Yeah.
And so it's about empowerment. It's about getting in control of your own health, and that's what we teach.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah, I really, really love that. And I want to pull out like what I'm hearing, right? This approach to this way of healing is really what you're saying is understanding and really believing that the body has the ability to heal itself. Right. And we can actually support our body in healing. And this is a complete opposite of how our traditional medical systems here in Canada as well. Right. I know you're in the States, but all over the world. Right. It's
Mm-hmm.
Band-Aid approach. It's here's a medication to mask the symptom or to make the symptom go away, as opposed to asking the question of why is the symptom there in the first place? And why is this actually, what's the,
Yeah.
again, this root cause healing, right? And
You would
uncovering,
think, yeah.
which you're doing, right, through lab testing and through really digging in. And one of the things that really frustrates me, and like I said, I've just been watching my brother go through this, is like even just understanding that the tests that a traditional medical doctor are actually running are not the same as what I'm guessing you're running, right? Like even the depth of testing that they're doing and the ranges in which they're actually calling you healthy, right, are really skewed. So I wonder if you can speak to that for a minute.
Sure. Yes. Well, you know, I was saying the name of what we do. I just had to think of a name. When I started teaching, I had to call it something. So I landed on this functional diagnostic nutrition. Functional because it's all about function. It's about how you're functioning. So we don't diagnose disease. We want to know how are you supposed to function? How is your organs and all these tissues and cells and systems functioning? And then diagnostic, because we do use the lab. So I'm answering your question by taking a zoom out first. Functional, it's about diagnostic, but not medical diagnosis. That's confusing for some people. No, it's diagnostic in nature because we use data, we use intelligence gathered from your body, from the client's body, or our own if we're working on ourselves. So this intelligence, we call it diagnostics. You know, my car, guy uses diagnostics. My computer, to fix it, a guy uses diagnostics, or gal, or whatever. And so we're just using diagnostic tools to look inside the body.
Yeah.
Not providing medical diagnosis. That's really critical. Now,
Yeah.
so that's functional diagnostic, and then nutrition because it's about nurturing. It's about nutrition and nurture everything from your mind and your emotions through your tissues, cells, organs, what have you, and uh, um, people get better. They just simply get better with that approach. So, functional diagnostic nutrition. Now, the tools we use are, other than great history taking, really getting to know people,
Yeah.
really going back sometimes years so we can get all of a complete understanding, if we can, of a person's life and lifestyle. Now, you run the labs because you need the data. You need to know about their hormones, what's out of balance, their immune system, is it over or under active? Digestion, are you actually breaking down and absorbing your food? You spend all this money on food and supplements, and if you're not breaking down and absorbing them, no good. So hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification. How's that liver working? The kidneys, the colon, the lymph. The lungs are detoxifying organs. Your skin is a detoxifying organ. So you really need to understand hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification. And then energy production on a cellular level is really critical. And there's a way to fuel every cell that it does produce energy right. And of course, you don't have to teach a cell what its job is. It knows what, that's that innate intelligence that you were referring to. And the last thing that we look at generally on a general onboarding is the nervous system. It's the sympathetic versus parasympathetic. You know, people are very overly sympathetic these days because of all the ragged input they get. But now, if you notice, I just said hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, and nervous system. That spells hidden, HIDDEN. And so I'm a big organizer. I told you I was inventing systems, you know, so I could keep it organized, and also so I could educate people coming in the office. I'm the head educator at our clinic. So I came up with these systems and easy ways to remember it and step-by-step processes, and so that people would get that power back in their own hands. That was my goal. I'm going to be the last person you need to see, but not because I'm going to fix anything, because I'm going to teach you how things work so that you have control over those things, these functions. So functional. Using the diagnostic tools that anyone can use, by the way, Danny. You don't have to be a physician to get lab work done. We created a system direct to consumer. Anyone can do this work, and any health coach can do it. You don't need to be a doctor to do that. Now, what's equally important to investigating this HIDDEN, all of the systems involved in your body that are really critical. Well, you get all those fixed, you're going to be in good shape. Those are the main ones. You could add a few others: oxidative stress. There's other things in the environment and the world we care about, but those 6 items really work well and put the power back in the hands of the person to control their own health, so they don't live on pills and get lined up for surgery. You know? So now, how do you, once you identify those elements, those healing opportunities, I call it the constellation, and this also defines us as different from other practitioners, because we never run one test. We don't specialize in, let's say, the endocrine system. Oh, it's your hormones. Or the GI system. Oh, it's your digestion detox. You know, it's leaky gut. You know, you have people they're still fragmenting, even though they're thinking functionally. You know, this whole idea of functional medicine. Oh, it's different. No, not really. It's being practiced using reductionism and fractionation of the human body down into its individual parts, and that's where it's going wrong. And so where we go, the direction we want to go in is look at the entire constellation, identify as many healing opportunities as possible, which is work, it's investment. And then there's no one pill, there's no 5 pills. There's lifestyle and holistic thinking that it's going to require 5 elements. And here's another one of my acronyms for you. DRESS. Diet. The right one for you. We're all different. We need the right diet for us. We know how to figure that out. Diet. The R is rest. Because it's not just sleep. It's rest. Rest your soul, rest your spirit, rest your mind, rest your emotions, rest your body and cells, of course. Deep sleep is really important. But you can rest. You need to understand rest from another perspective. Diet, rest. Then exercise, goes without saying, and it's individualized. And then the 2 S's in DRESS, dress for health success, is stress reduction and supplementation. Now, you've heard that word stress before, right?
A couple times.
A couple times. You may even think you experienced a little stress once in a while.
No, never me, but I've heard other people talk about it.
Now, in Canada, they don't have any stress. That's good. You know, matter of fact, you know I'm Canadian, right? So, but I've been in the States for 40 plus years. But you know, we're joking. But when you say stress, people think mental, emotional. But I'm here to tell you that that's important. And some obstacles to healing are in the mind and emotions of people. Your obstacles to healing are in your mind or in your emotions. And we know how to deal with that. But other obstacles to healing is trauma, physical aches and pains, injuries, things like that. That would be my area of stress. You know, it's stress caused by pain and dysfunctional joints and things. I have beat the crap out of my body. You know, things I probably shouldn't have been, very, very dangerous things. I just say I have a well-used body, but it's a combination of from being a kid and the stuff we did that was dangerous. Growing up doing surfing and playing football, and I did jiu-jitsu for many years till I got so hurt I couldn't do it anymore. But skiing accidents, motorcycle accidents, and even just work. You all do construction when we're younger. At some time in your life, every man I know has done construction somewhere. So anyway, all of these knees and shoulders and neck, multiple neck injuries, multiple back, that's another type of stress. And people get it. But what you might not know is that emotional, mental stress, like you hate your job and your kids are a little rotten, whatever. Just kidding about that. They're all darlings, of course.
Sure.
But, relationships, money, the world, traffic, the news, you name it. So you have all that. Your body responds exactly the same to trauma and physical stress as it does to mental, emotional stress. And there's a third type, and that's the chemical and biochemical stressors of the environment, which, if you remember, is where I started. So I started out knowing, like, hey, this is killing the planet, this environment. What about people? Well, we're subject to the same stressors that are the birds, bees, the lakes, the air, the water, all of the things. So we have mental, emotional stress, physical trauma, and that kind of aches and pains and stress. And then we have the chemical and biochemical. Our bodies make toxins, which have to be eliminated. And so there's a lot of room there in the DRESS for all kinds of stress. Diet's important, rest is important, exercise is important. People really don't assess their stressors well enough. They don't understand how that breaks your body down. And I can show you exactly how it breaks your body down. And the other final S is supplements, which I don't have my own brand, but I know an awful lot about them. I've been studying those for 23 years as well. So we know a few things about what would help a person.
Yeah, and nowhere in there did you say, here's a prescription for something, right? Like, I love that. And I love that like those 5 areas could be so, when you get down to the root of like what's really going on, right? With, and having some actual numbers behind it and understanding with actual tests, right? Instead of just guessing, like so many of us do. And I really want to pull out and really appreciate, right? And everybody listening, that this is something that is very unique when we bring in the word functional, whether you've worked with a functional medical doctor or this amazing work that you're doing, it's really from this lens of understanding that we're not separate from the parts of ourselves, right? We're whole beings. And I really like what I hear you saying is when people come in to see you, right? You're like, it's not just doing a hormone test or just doing a gut test. We're going to take the full snapshot, because no one system in our body is working, without the other, right? Everything is so intertwined and affecting every piece is talking to each other at all times. So why are we just focusing? And I've fully done this, right? Getting like, and maybe many of you listening, right, have done food sensitivity testing or just your hormone test or just this test here and there. And, sometimes that might be like something specific that you're looking for. But if you don't have the whole picture, how are you going to really heal holistically? So I just wanted to highlight that. I think that's really incredible and very, very important when we are healing and we're ready to actually take our healing seriously, to be able to actually get the full picture of what's going on in our body. And that's something that most people don't do, right? And
Well,
I have never done that.
You're very astute. And that's what I recognized 20 back in the late 1990s when I started. Remember, everyone was coming in and everybody still had their problem.
Yeah.
And it wasn't they hadn't looked into different areas, but they were getting passed around. So they would, for a
Right.
certain problem, your periods and your fertility and whatever, oh, you go see an endocrinologist, and
Right.
they work the way they work, and it's mostly again fractionation. No one's looking at how all the other systems affect the hormones. So no one's connecting the dots. If you say then to that same practitioner, your endocrinologist, oh, I'm having diarrhea, constipation, heartburn, gas, indigestion, bloating. I've got this and that, and I'm gaining weight. Oh, well, hey, I'm an endocrinologist, so you need to go see a gastroenterologist, and
Right.
vice versa. And then that guy, you're working and something else pops up later. They may even help you a little bit, but oh, well, that's a neurologist. You've got to go see a neurologist for that. So that's not holistic. That's fractionation. That's reductionism, reducing the body down to individual parts, which doesn't work. Not as
Yeah.
well as it can get you out of pain. That's not a bad thing. I would never not go to a doctor and see what they had to say. But if they're just going to sort of, well, here's your prescription for your thyroid, well,
Yeah.
then you're leaving everything else that affects the thyroid unaddressed. You're
Right.
ignoring what's really wrong in most cases, because the thyroid is just a
Right.
little thermometer that keeps track of stuff and responds
Yeah.
according to the environment. So very often nothing's wrong with it. It's actually doing what it's told to do by all the input that you're getting,
Another
the
part. Yeah.
signals that are coming in. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we try very hard not to fractionate, and so you picked up on probably the most important thing. And as I like to say again, it's a constellation of healing opportunities, which you might have, oh, I tested that, and I tested that,
Mhm.
but no one else that I've listened to has said, look, all of those causal factors and healing up, they're having an effect upon each other,
Mhm.
and a lot of that's not measurable. And so
Yeah.
you have to know how to connect the dots, and so you need training to do that. And that's why we
Yeah.
always run a constellation of healing opportunities, and then look at all the dots, see how they're connected, and then apply the general principles of health building. Again, the DRESS affects every
Mhm.
cell, every tissue, organ, system in the body. The entire organism is lifted up. And
Mhm. Yeah.
that way we're not fractionating at all, not reducing you to one thing. We're not specializing. We don't treat, here's the word, we don't treat anything
Yeah.
specifically. We treat
Yeah.
everything non-specifically, and that makes us safe, reliable, repeatable,
Yeah.
duplicatable. You can just copy the principles, and then
Yeah.
you're in power. You're in the driver's seat of your own health.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the most important messages for all of us to remember, right? That we have so much more power than we think, and we've really spent our whole lives learning the opposite, right? That we don't know anything, we can't trust our bodies, the doctors and the food industry have our best interest at heart and they know what's right for us, and just this total disempowerment left, right, and center. And what you're offering here are the tools that, I wholly believe every single human on the planet needs to really get back into the driver's seat, right? And yes, get the knowledge, and obviously there's going to be support we need. I don't know how to read lab tests. I need someone to do that for me, right? But I can actually implement and learn, if there is something going on for me, which is really powerful. I'm curious, Reed. I'm really curious as we're talking about this, and I know you say you've done so many tests, and I'm curious what you've seen, or have you seen any patterns in what's really going on at the root of a lot of the health issues that people are struggling with? Are there any themes that you're seeing or have over the last 10 years? Like, what are the biggest problem areas for most people that are causing a lot of disease or a lot of these issues that they might be coming to you for?
Yeah, it's. I always take the 30,000 foot view on these kind of questions and go, look, you're human, and human is pretty cool. Like we have a lot of built-in adaptability and survival, um, uh, just instinct. It's built into every cell. Again, this intelligence that is in every cell in your body, is the same intelligence that runs the universe, let's say. The architecture, the great architect of one is the same as of the other. And there's a natural order to things. And if you just fed it what it needs, genetically speaking, you'd probably be okay in most cases. There are people who are broken. There are people who somehow get mutated things when they're young, even in the womb and things like that. But generally, it's our genetics. You can't change your parents, so you have them. They will never change. Wouldn't that be nice? We could have picked our parents.
Even if we try. I know. I had to quit trying a couple years ago.
Well, thank goodness I grew up with great ones. I still have my mom's 92. She's still going strong.
Wow.
Yeah, my dad passed away in his late 80s, so I got some good history there. But you can't pick your parents. So you got this set of genes, half from your mom, half from your dad. That's it. You don't get to change that. That test, if you ran it today, your gene test, and you ran it in 10 years, doesn't matter what you did in between. Your genes are going to be the same. So what dictates health is called epigenetics.
Yeah.
It's all the signals that those genes are receiving, in a sense, that dictate health. So what's more important, genetics or epigenetics? It's epigenetics. It's like 8% genetics and 92%. Don't let anyone tell you much different than that. It could be off by 1% or 2. Who cares? It's how you live in your environment. It's the signals you send to your genes, and then the result is called genetic expression. So my genes right now, my next birthday I'll be 70. So I'm keeping the signals nurturing, beneficial, while I try to eliminate the bad signals. So I don't live in the city, I live in the country, I live in the hills. I grow my own food, like my grandfathers did up in Canada. I order only organic meats and things like that. I don't do any grains hardly, no gluten, no dairy, things. So I'm really controlling the signals that my genes are receiving. And they're expressing in a healthy way with good function. Everything from, I did lose my hair, but I'm bald-headed. How do you explain that, Reed? Well, who knows? That's the genetics part that I couldn't control. But the rest of it, my genes are expressing in a way that I'm healthy, happy. My body parts work well. I can overcome injuries, and there's some stuff you can break, like tendons and things. But anyway, I hope I'm not getting too confusing here. So it's us against the environment, and you have your genes. You can change those, but you can control genetic expression by controlling the epigenetic, your environment around you, and it's the only way, by the way. So yes, I eat according to my metabolic type. That's what we use. People could find out more if they want at mtdiet.com. That's just a little side thing, MT for metabolic typing, diet.com. So that's how I eat. And that's how all of our practitioners eat, and that's how we tell our clients to eat. There's a right genetic friendly diet for you. We all have different genes, right?
Yeah.
So then the rest part, I make it, it actually might be my worst nemesis, is that I don't like to sleep. I think sleeping, it would be a waste of time as a businessman. Hey, I got too much work to do. No, but now I realize I'm getting older. No, that sleep allows me to work better, smarter, more clear thinking, more well rested. It allows me to exercise and do the other habits. So diet, rest, I make myself go to bed early. My dad said, early to bed, early to rise, work like hell and advertise.
So what I hear you saying, right, is really this understanding that, most of the testing that you're seeing and most of the issues that are arising, coming back to the question, is really coming from just imbalances in these 5 areas, right? The diet, the rest, the stress, the exercise, just not really found these foundational pieces to longevity and health and happiness that most of us now living in the world are really, disassociated from, or we forget about, or we just don't prioritize, right? And then we are developing these illnesses and then blaming our genetics, which is not actually the case, right? We have so much power over, like you said, right? How we actually, our lifestyle and our diet and our, the way we live, how that really drastically affects what's showing up for us.
You're right. You're absolutely right. The labs tell you what's out of balance or what's wrong, so to speak, where things are breaking down metabolically or what have you. And they're the motivation to follow the DRESS protocol. You see, oh, wow, my hormones are out of balance. What are you going to do? Just take hormones the rest of your life? Or do you want to try to reduce the stressors, and environmental things that have turned those things that way, that have created the imbalances? Same thing with digestion. All this. So hormone, immune, we investigate those areas, and the data is very motivating. By the way, it's data that no one else is going to show you hardly. Not all together, and not how it's all fitting together. Again, connecting the dots is really important. And people even say they connect dots, but they're not connecting enough of them, in my experience, in my view. And then you can apply these principles of healing to every cell, tissue, organ, system in your body, and you will. 100% of the people who do our program get better to varying degrees. Sometimes they get more energy, they lose a few pounds, they sleep better, their muscle tone, their sex life, the important things just get better, and anything left over, we continue to dive deeper into causal factors and walk that person on a path of continuous improvement. That's where the health coaching comes in. So we're a health coaching system, but we're advanced, very sophisticated one because of the lab work and the data that we collect first. But you're right. It's not just a prescription. Take this for 3 months and come back. It's here's your lifestyle, how it could improve. Let's work together for 3 months, and then we'll reassess together and things like that. So it's an ongoing, continuous improvement plan.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I need to send my brother to you for sure. Like this is happening with what he's going on. I mean,
might
this
not
is
be
important
appropriate here, but I would want to know, what's your main complaint? How often does it bother you? How long has that been going on? What have you tried so far that obviously hasn't worked? And then how does this affect your life? What would stop you from completing a plan? Do you have any fears or inhibitions? Or it could be money, it could be time. A lot of things can get in your way. We want to sort out your life along that pathway. And then, what can we expect to achieve here? What are some reasonable expectations? And if you're ready, if you're willing to jump in, fully committed, we would accept you as a client, and we'd move forward, and not almost ignoring what his diagnosis was. We're not the doctor. Yeah. We don't care about diagnosis. That's just a label for some symptoms, or maybe even for some disease process. That's fine, but we're going to work around the edges of that. We're going to empower the person to follow the principles that would lift every cell, tissue, organ, and system together.
Yeah. So you mentioned this earlier, and I want to come back to this before we run out of time, because I think this is really important in this world. Like when we think about nutrition, and I know a lot of my listeners are maybe currently or have in the past struggled with finding like the right way of eating for them. And I know so many obviously listening are trying to get off sugar, trying to get off processed food. And, I don't know about you, I'm sure you've seen this too, right? When we get into the world of nutrition, we can very quickly see how dogmatic a lot of different diets tend to start to be. This idea that, veganism is the right way of eating for everyone, or carnivore is the right way of eating for everyone. And people who are in those spaces are like, this is it. Everybody needs to do this, instead of actually honoring the unique individuality of each of us. So I know that you speak to this, and you kind of alluded to it a little earlier, but why is it that one diet or one way of eating doesn't actually work for everyone? And how do we actually go about finding the right way of eating that works for our unique bodies?
There's a lot of ways I could answer that. There's no intrinsic value to any one food. It's who's eating it that matters.
Yeah.
So let's take the Bantu natives from Africa. They're a small tribe. They're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. They're an indigenous tribe that can be studied, like because they eat the way they've been eating for thousands of years, and actually many millennia. Maybe 25, 30,000 years. That's how they've been eating. They eat off the local flora and fauna, and that's all they eat. Their diet has not been contaminated by outsiders. And guess what? That diet's perfect for them. If you look at a young Bantu woman, you'll see that her skin is clear, her eyes are clear, her reproductive ability is second to none. They can pop them out, you know what I mean? So they're very healthy. They can work for hours or hunt or gather and all the things that they do with endless energy. Yet they sleep really well, and they kind of survive really, really well. Now, you know what they eat is mostly just protein, some fat. That's it. In the where they live in Africa, there's no cultivation of grains and seeds and fruits and vegetables and any of this stuff. So they like that. That diet it's not just the amount of protein and fat, but it's the makeup of that protein and fat. It's got the local those animals eat flora, other fauna, but also flora, and it all comes out of the soils in that area. So those minerals, those trace elements, those phytonutrients, and on top of their ratio of protein, fats, and carbs, they're amino acids, they're vitamins and minerals, as I said. So it's all local, and it's bred into their bones. And if they eat that way, they're healthy. The minute they don't, they get unhealthy. And that's true with all of us. Now, so mostly protein and fat. Now, you take the Quechuan Indians, who are a tribe of Indians from the Andes in South America. Completely different. Completely different 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 years history. The elements in those soils, the vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids, trace elements, phytonutrients, and antioxidants and things are unique to that area. You know what they live on? Potatoes and corn. And they not very much meat at all. They cultivate some domestic livestock, mostly for milk and fur and things like that. So they just are different. So that explains the genetic requirements or differences. They just have a different makeup. So, and as soon as they ate differently, you move them to New York City, put them on donuts and coffee, spaghetti and meatball, anything else, doesn't matter. Even healthy food, it could even be shopping at organic stores. But if it wasn't the right, number one, ratio of protein, fat, and carb for their genetic makeup, it's been bred in their bone for tens of thousands of years. Even if it was good quality food, wouldn't nourish them. And not in the right way. The protein, fat, and carb. And then, of course, the minerals and trace elements, that's not even in our food anymore. The soils are so depleted, you're not hardly getting not only the quantities, not only the right ones, you're getting the wrong ones, but you're not getting the right quantities of all of those micronutrients. So you have a ratio of the macronutrients, protein, fat, carb, and you have the right micronutrient requirements. And if you're meeting that, you're going to be you have a better chance of being healthy if you don't get hit by a bus.
Yeah.
But and if you eat the wrong ones, you're absolutely guaranteed. My friend Bill Walcott, who wrote the Metabolic Typing Diet book, says you will pay the piper. There's no way around it.
Yeah. And here we are all living in Canada and the US, right? Massively on this standard American diet that is not from the earth or never has been, right? And is not actually ever going to provide us with the nutrients that we need. So what I hear you saying is almost like actually honoring and understanding like our lineage and where we came from as well, right? And I know so many of us don't live in the country or the part of the world where even our ancestors or our lineage was from. So is this where, like, how do we reconcile those pieces? I'm asking just for myself. Like my family is, European and my genetics are European, and here I am on the west coast of Canada, and how to kind of honor the land where I live and I was even born and raised versus like what might be genetically passed down from me from a different culture?
First of all, be aware of these principles. Just being self-aware that, yeah, this stuff matters and you can't just eat crap. That's super awareness. Real quickly, if we have time, I'll give you an example. My cousin, I'm Reed Davis. My cousin Chris Davis was a priest. He's retired now, but he was an Anglican priest, and he got sent up north to around the James Bay part of Ontario to minister to 2 Cree Indian villages. So these are Native Canadians, First Nation, right? And they obviously their genetics for tens of thousands of years required fish, caribou, or what they call reindeer, whatever they call them, birds, geese, and the fish otherwise, and just enough of the local fresh flora that would be seasonally naturally induced. They didn't have farms, they didn't have anything like that. So they're hunter gatherers, pure and simple. And I asked him one time, "Hey Chris, what do your tribes do? Your villages do when they're sick? Do they have a medicine man?" And he goes, "I'm the medicine man." Like I said, no, I don't mean spiritually. I meant because God knows what they do for that. I don't know. I go, no, if they get sick. He goes, they're all sick. They all have diabetes. They're all, why? Because the Western civilization moved in. They started mining copper mines and gold mines and all these, and they brought in their food with them. And the local tribes people started eating that crap. Tim Horton donuts. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So they got off the. Now they all have diabetes, and are on government whatever. So that's the principle. That's how it happens. There's nothing wrong with those people that a natural diet wouldn't fix. And so, the answer to your question, hey, I don't know who my tribe is. Well, you might to some, and you can kind of guess about some things. That's why there's a test. We use 2 tests. We use the metabolic typing test. Again, it's at mtdiet.com. And then we use a food sensitivity test because we're so dysfunctional that we've developed these sensitivities to digestion and other problems that you might have. So we can get you really close to your genetic diet, really close. The rest, you got to kind of figure it out for yourself. What gives you more energy? What gives you a sense of well-being? What satiates you? Like, I don't eat breakfast because my ancient ancestors, they didn't either. They went out in the morning on a fast and they hunted all day and they brought home the meat and they cooked it and ate it and whatever. They might have had a little something to chew on, but generally they try to live like a caveman.
Yeah. Could you imagine what our whole lives would look like if we did that, right?
Hey, I can't
Actually
imagine
reconnected to the earth.
Yeah. Thank God someone invented toilet paper. That's all I could say,
Yes. Everything changed then, right? We've seen what our dependence on toilet paper has done to the world in the last couple of years. People got a little crazy for that.
Yes. My only other answer to your question, and I know that we're running out of time, but is in the last few years, there was this little thing that went around. You probably heard of it. It began with the C.
The C word? Yeah.
And that screwed things up a lot for people. That gave so many bad people an opportunity to take more control over us, and including everything from diets and other stuff, trying to make us do things with our bodies and things, because there are those that want that control. And I'm of the other mind that no, I should be in control over my body, not someone else. And so that's really changed things. And I think we need to be ever more vigilant. Like that, hopefully that'll sort of die down a little bit in the next few years. Maybe not. Again, the people that got power and control out of that still want it. They're not gonna give it back very easily. But they're to be resisted, and you want control over yours and your family's health, And the way to do that is to understand what tests what we do in FDN. We run labs. We don't buy anyone's bullshit. We find out about ourselves. We apply that data to explain ourselves in an individual basis. Doesn't explain your neighbor or even your mom or your sister or brother or kids. It only explains you. So we have the most utmost respect for individuality. And then, of course, it's all epigenetics. You're not going to find it in a tube or vial or bottle or jar or no lotion, potion, powder, pill, injection, anything. That doesn't give you control. It gives it to someone else.
Yeah, I think that's such a powerful way to kind of wrap things up. This reminder, because this first of all, Reed, is like, this is a rabbit hole that we can go down, and maybe we have to do another episode because this is really important as well. So we'll maybe have to put a pin in that. But I think the message there, what I hear, and I want to echo that for sure, is just even asking yourself, like, who right now is controlling your health, right? Is it the food industry? Is it Big Pharma? Or are you? Are you actually in the driver's seat of making the choices that are wholly right for you? So I think like just that reminder and asking that question for yourself can be a bit scary when we realize that the answer is, well, I've given over control to someone else, and just starting to build that awareness. So I'm grateful that you mentioned that, because I think that's, it's really important just to have that awareness and for all of us to start questioning, right? And to start questioning what's really going on, in the grand scheme of things. And unfortunately, we do live in quite a corrupt world, especially in the health world. And we have more power than we think, right? When we start taking it back and start, really doing everything that like Reed and I have been talking about today. So thank you for sharing all of that, Reed. It's been so insightful. I've learned a lot. I hope everybody listening has. Where can everybody come and find more about you and about, everything that you're putting out there and supporting people with?
Well, we talked about FDN, and there's a website, fdntraining.com/beyond sugar. So fdntraining.com/beyond sugar. That's where we'd like you to go to get more information. And I can't thank you enough for having me on. I'm honored to be able to speak with your audience. It's you didn't have to have me on, and I know you look hard for the best guests, but you got me instead.
We'll take it. I'll take what I can get. No, this has been great, Reed. Yeah, thank you. And I'll make sure all the links and resources are below in the show notes. So everybody go down, start do some investigation, look more into what Reed is doing. And I know you've also got an incredible podcast as well and are doing some fantastic things in the world. So thank you for everything that you're doing, Reed.
Thank you, Danny. God bless.
Yeah, really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for tuning in to another episode. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. If you're loving what we talked about today, please remember to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone you love. And if you're ready to dive deeper into discovering your root causes and patterns that are keeping you hooked on sugar, be sure to check out our brand new free workshop series that will help you kick emotional eating for good. Find the link to download this free series and other amazing resources in the show notes below.